As it happens, we actually have someone in our church who has experience in some of the things that we were talking about today. And of course, I'm talking about our own Van Duvall, who is I believe, lifelong member of the church.
No, not quite.
Not quite, close to. Close to. Also serves with his wife, Christy, as our co-youth leaders, and has himself experienced maybe not something exactly akin to what the Apostle Paul went to, but something close. So Van, would you start off by just explaining a little bit what happened to you about 3 years ago for those who might not know?
Yeah, so January of 2017, after the holidays, back at work, and I'm feeling good about life. I'm fit, I'm healthy, and just one day at work, a excruciating pain started in my abdomen, and didn't know what it was. Just thought something that might pass, might go away, and that was a Friday afternoon. And so I saw the doctor the next day on a Saturday, and got x-rays, and the doctor said, well, just kind of watch it. Looks like you have a blockage, it'll pass. And then I couldn't wait, I couldn't sleep, I was in too much pain. Early that next Monday morning, my wife takes me to NCMC and to the emergency room, and they of course sedate me, and I'm feeling good at that point. And that's the last thing I remember about that. That's the last memory I have before waking up 3 weeks later, and I'll get to that. So I guess the way it goes is that they waited till the next day, which was the 10th. I went in on the 9th, and they actually waited till the 10th to operate for some reason. I don't know why. Found out one of my intestines was twisted, and the surgeon takes out that section and sews me back up and sends me into septic shock. So there's different types of sepsis, I guess different levels. Septic shock's the worst. That means my organs, everything's shutting down. I have poison in my blood. And I knew nothing about sepsis before this happened. I had no idea what it was, but I learned the hard way. So they need to put me on what's called an ECMO machine, which is a heart-lung machine, basically life support. They didn't have anybody to run theirs at NCMC, so they had to find a hospital. Way out in Denver at Aurora at the Anschutz Medical Center. And so I had all this equipment hooked up to me, keeping me going, and it was too heavy to fly, so they had to drive me down there. And in the meantime, they get me put on their ECMO machine because all the equipment they had in me for their Greeley ECMO machine didn't match the one in Denver. So get me hooked up to the ECMO machine, and then next time I know, I'm waking up, I'm having snapshots here and there of what's going on. I can hear the machines and stuff, but I really don't know what's going on. Finally, they wake me up, and the first thing I remember is Jim Young, Christy's dad, and Christy leaning in front of me, just urging me to fight. Come on, fight, you got this. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, yeah, I'm getting out of the hospital today. I'm good. Little did I know. So at that point, I was in a medically induced coma for 3 weeks. But so they started, my heart started working again, and my lungs were starting working. This mean nurse played the distraction trick on me, and this nurse distracted me, and this one grabbed the tube and just yanked it out. that was fun. So start healing up and getting better, and a whole lot of 2 steps forward, 1 step back the whole way, and just a long journey. And I get to the point where I'm getting probably well enough to get moved out of ICU into some other rooms, and then on into that journey. I got a little better. I remember the first time I sat up, I couldn't hold my head up. It was like a bobblehead doll. I'd lost 25, almost 30 pounds of muscle, and I was 130 pounds. Just long road back. And one of the things I noticed when I woke up was my left foot was just black, just done, as well as all the toes on my right foot. And tips, different lengths of 7 fingers. What they use is called vasopressors, and vasopressors constrict all your capillaries and force all your blood out of your extremities, arms and legs, into your core to keep your organs and brain alive and functioning. And that's what they did while I was in the coma. And it caused basically frostbite or gangrene and killed off my left foot and my toes over here and my fingers. So those all had to be amputated. So when I was well enough, I was able to get moved into the LTAC up here at Johnstown, and my wife fought really hard to get that for me, which was a blessing to be close to home. So was in there for about 3 months. Total stay in hospital was 5 months. To the day, 5 months to the day, which is January 9th to June 9th of 17. But while I'm at the LTAC recovering and doing rehab, which wasn't fun, they performed other surgeries on me, my amputations, and that's when I really went into deep depression. And, up until then I had my mind was, I'm getting back to work. I mean, this isn't going to stop me. I was motivated. A lot of the nurses are asking me, well, what did you used to do, Mr. Duvall? I'm like, well, maybe I used to be in college, but now I'm a deputy sheriff. Their mindset was that I was giving up or I'd already given up. And I was like, no, I'm a deputy sheriff. I'm getting back to work. And I was really motivated. Because of all these cards. I mean, my room, I woke up and my room was just wallpapered with cards from our church and our family and work. And it was just overwhelming. And the support was just amazing. So going to depression after my amputation, because up till then I knew it was going to happen, but reality hadn't set in.
Right.
So they took my leg off, and then they have to put me on medication for anxiety and depression, and it really does help a lot. But had to learn to walk. Got my prosthetic leg after I got home, and I'm sitting around the house doing nothing. I'm going stir crazy. I'm depressed. Finally get my prosthetic leg, and it was just the most phenomenal feeling to stand up again without a walker or a wheelchair or
something so easy to take for granted.
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the things I'm going to touch on is taking things for granted, because as I'm recovering in the hospital, heart and lungs are working well, but kidneys and bladder, no. So I'm on dialysis. And that really hurt me, because I'm like, I could not be on dialysis the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And just praying and I guess maybe just the force of will. I said, okay, let's start working one day. And slowly the kidneys came back and I got off of dialysis, and I so realized not to take for granted anything that our body does for us. Our legs for our balance, our kidneys for what they do, any organ. So, and I was so looking forward to get back to work, because I couldn't be sitting around. And I had babysitters, of course, until I gained my strength back, and I was so weak. And got back to work middle of October of 17, and probably pushed it too hard. Mm-hmm. But it was a bittersweet thing, because yes, I kept my mind busy, I was getting stronger, but it really kind of maybe delayed me getting better. So, but now, fast forward to today, I'm feeling a lot better, not 100%. I'm stronger, but not all the way where I want to be. But it's continuing day by day. It's a continuing road, and I've since taken up talking to a counselor, which my wife and daughters have all pushed me to do, and I was resistant and stubborn. And talk about your sermon the other day, being stubborn. That's what I was doing. And I finally decided, let's do this, and it was one of the best things I've ever done during this journey. My surgeon talked to me about it and said the studies they've done on returning soldiers from war and their depression is that the medication maybe takes away 30% of your depression, but they said the number one thing that helps them was talking to a counselor, talking about it. So, yeah, so but here I am, and that was very unexpected. Just.
I think that I'm not sure it was the first time we met, but one of the first times you and I met was in the hospital in one of your subsequent visits of you being there. And thankfully, we haven't had to do that for a while, which
that is a blessing.
Which I'm grateful for.
Yes.
So you yourself, you're a veteran. Thank you. You're in law enforcement. I mean, when you take on those sorts of roles, you take on a certain amount of risk with them. But this wasn't related to any of that. Like this was all very unexpected. Did it change things for you because it just felt like it just came out of the blue? It wasn't anything you expected to have happen?
Of course. I mean, as a public servant, I mean that was how I identified. I mean, I was there to help others. Okay, I'm there to serve, and I'm going 100 miles an hour one day, and the next day, complete stop. And I mean, I enjoyed running, and I was exercising, and lifting weights, doing things like that to maintain fitness for our job. I mean, we have a fitness standard at the sheriff's office that we have to maintain, and so I was doing that, and all of a sudden that changed, and I couldn't run or do any exercises for a long time. I mean, I can run now, but it's very funny to watch actually because it's a lot different. But yeah, and it was just out of the blue and unexpected. I mean, you go in for an operation, you would think, okay, I can wake up the next day and I'm great, but no. And that's what made me realize not to take anything for granted, and that let's prioritize things. That was the biggest thing. Just the things that I used to worry about were insignificant and meant nothing really, and were just worry that I didn't need to have. So,
Are there ways you maybe actually feel, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but are there ways maybe you actually feel stronger now than you were before? I mean, I know physically you're still in a recovery mode, but are there ways you feel stronger now?
Yes, both mentally and physically and emotionally. One of the ways I described it in my recovery is that I almost feel more empowered now than I did before, because of how I'm inspiring people. And obviously that's not something I did one day. I want to inspire people. Let me lose my leg. No, I just had so many people coming up to me saying, "Van, you're amazing." And I'm like, well, thank you. I'm doing what I can to the best of my ability, and I guess it's such an inspiration to people to see me fight and work hard and to come back and get back to the best normal life that I can get to. And it was just an honor hearing people tell me what an inspiration I am, and I think that is one of my new journeys, my new path now is to use this to inspire people that are going through similar things. And I have since I got out of the hospital, I've been invited back to talk to people in similar situations and say, hey, you're going to get through this. A guy I work with at the sheriff's office had an injury to his leg that made him need an amputation. I went in before his operation and talked to him about it, showed him what's going on with me, told him my situation, have talked to him since. Just doing things like that. I'm now on the peer support team at the sheriff's office, providing support for anybody for any reason. So also, a while back, I was just sitting around thinking, what can I do as part of this journey to help others now in this role? So I thought, well, maybe I can just start almost like our working men's group, but just something for law enforcement or first responders, veterans, support group. Just maybe a nonprofit. And so I have started the beginning steps of creating a nonprofit called Heroes Support to support our heroes. And what my goal that I see that doing is supporting them financially, emotionally, mentally, just in whatever way they need.
So I don't want to, again, I hate to put words in your mouth, but I at first I feel like I want to say, it sounds like through this maybe you found a new calling, but maybe not so much, only because you said before your calling was to serve. You've joined the military, you joined the sheriff's department as a way of serve. So maybe it's not so much you found a new calling, but you've definitely found new ways to serve.
Yes, definitely new ways to serve, and you're right. It isn't exactly a new calling, but it is, I think, what I've done in the military and the sheriff's office is very meaningful, but this is, I think, even more meaningful. It's just a humanitarian thing, it's something that I think everybody needs. I mean, you don't have to be an amputee to need inspiration. You can just, maybe your pet bird died or something, and that was devastating to you. I mean, it could be anything. It is very much a new calling, and I definitely want to use this to be part of my journey after the sheriff's office and continue this. Yeah, so.
So right now, with everything going on in the world, I'm sure there are folks who would think that a lot of folks feel that they're probably living through some of the darkest times they've been through, being separated from our families, separated from our lives. Many people have lost jobs, and all of that. I think I'd be interested to know where are you finding hope right now, either both in your life personally or with everything else going on. Where would you say your hope is coming from?
First, I'll address the feelings that people are having about the darkest time in their lives, and I get that. When the shutdown first happened back in March, I believe it was, and everybody was sheltered in place, and people were going stir crazy. I'm like, people were kind of learning that they understand OCD because you have to wash your hands all the time, and social distance. That was my life. That's who I was very aware of germs and being OCD my whole life leading up to this. So this whole situation did not affect me. I actually kind of liked it. Don't think I'm weird or anything, but it was kind of like a calming effect. Everything calmed down, and I was able to calm down. I know that had a different effect on everybody else. But, so this whole thing in that fashion has not really affected me. My situation has strengthened me to deal with this, just mentally and emotionally. And I think I'm doing a lot better than a lot of people, honestly. So, finding hope. I found hope from that moment I woke up in the hospital when I was being told to fight, and all the outpouring and sentiment of gifts and cards and donations to help me and my family. I found hope in that, and an uncle of ours from Arkansas, a retired doctor, his name's Mike, was at the hospital with me, and he challenged me one day, and he said, or one night, he was staying with me during the night, he looks at me and says, "Van, do you want this?" And he was making me make a choice whether I wanted to live or die, and I said, "Yeah, I do." and I found hope in that. And I mean, that was a dark time. But there's hope in my family and the support I got from them. I was looking forward to seeing them every day. I mean, that was just the highlight of my day, and in the hospital, and still every day, even out of the hospital, I should say. But hope, and from the congregation's love and my coworkers, just amazing, and just being able to find hope. And when I was in my room looking around, I'm like, this many people don't like me. I know that. There's no way this many people like me. You know, I can be kind of moody. I don't know. And it was just amazing. Of course, I find hope in God and in Christ. And I prayed before this happened, and it just taught me to have stronger faith. I mean, a lot of people are like, aren't you mad at God? I mean, isn't your faith gone? I'm like, no, it's stronger. It's stronger now. There's the scripture that you'll know better than I do, and I'm not going to say it right, forgive me, but we're supposed to be happy when we have trials and obstacles. Pray to God and be thankful and happy in those. And I kept that in my mind, and my faith got stronger, and I prayed more, and I realized that maybe I worked on not being so selfish in my life, but I think I probably was, and I'm working on being more giving. But I find hope in all those areas. I mean, just hope, and I don't want to forget these people. My medical providers. My goodness, I had the most phenomenal people that have just given me the most amazing medical care in this world. It's phenomenal to be here, so, in this country, yeah.
Well, this whole sermon series has been about, where do we find God? Where in the world is God? And I think you're right. And one of the things we kept coming back through in this whole thing is this: there's a choice, which is when we ask that question, we can ask it in despair or we can ask it in hope, right? And an expectation that God is going to show up. And I think, in many of the things you talked about and shared about the people and the cards and the medical care and everything else, I mean, it's a choice whether you want to see God, and the Holy Spirit working in those situations. I certainly do, and it sounds like you do too.
I saw it every day. I mean, there were so many just little instances of things going on with my body that needed fixed, and lo and behold, here comes the solution. And I can't describe the perplexed look that some of my doctors had when they're like, so you've never had any medical issues? No. No operations? Never? Nope, nothing. And they're like, well, we're not, you don't know what happened. We don't know why this happened. To this day, we don't know why it happened. But it was just those little steps that those doctors kept pushing and treating and finding. I saw God every day in those miraculous little wins, those victories. And then it was just like, I don't think I can do this. And then I can do this. And then I would do it. And it was just one little step. And then, okay, I got that. Now the next one. And I just kept little by little by little. And I saw God in that every day.
That's great. Well, Van, I have to tell you, one of the places I find hope is in you and in your story, and getting to know you over these last few years and everything, and has been a real pleasure for me, and to see the progress you're making and the dedication to it, and the fact that you did get back to work and that you are doing that, and I'm inspired by the idea that you're turning this into a nonprofit. What a wonderful gift for everybody. So thank you for being part of this, and thank you for sharing your story with us.
Of course. Thank you for having me, and I love sharing my story. It's not only something that I hope inspires people, but it's mental health for me. It's healing for me to share my story, and I love to. Little kids will come up to me and ask, "Hey, what's happened? What happened to your leg?" And their parents might be, "Oh, no, don't ask." And I'm like, it's fine. I love telling my story. I'm glad to, and I'll tell my story, and it's great. So,
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate it. I'm sure everybody else will too.
All
All right. Thank you.